Ultrawings is a flight simulator with motion controller support. It's available for the Vive, Rift and OS VR for about $25 US. Here's my review of it in its current state as of August 2017. Starting with the story, there really isn't any. There is, however, a large variety of pretty well implemented voice work, lending a good amount of authenticity to the game world.
Wow, well, you proved me wrong. You definitely impressed everyone here.
This is air traffic control. You are cleared to land.
On to gameplay. The game functions in a sort of career mode, where you earn money by completing challenges in order to purchase airports and planes, each of which unlock even more challenges. The game offers 8 challenge modes, as well as a free fly mode. License mode offers a set of tutorial-like challenges for each plane you unlock. They give a fairly good coverage of the basics, though they do still leave a lot up to trial and error.
You've flown so far. It's got some pep in its step and it's highly maneuverable.
Land mode requires you to land your plane within a bullseye. Course mode requires you to fly through a series of rings within a given time frame. Rush mode is more or less the same. Pop mode involves shooting a certain amount of balloons before the timer runs out, armed with either a handgun or plane-mounted guns. Balloon mode requires you to both fly through rings and shoot balloons while you're doing it. Photo mode requires you to photograph something in the game world, using either the camera on your phone or the camera mounted to your plane. And alert mode, which remains a mystery to me, as after almost 6 hours of playing I still haven't unlocked it, and I've kind of given up trying to. As far as planes go, the game offers 3, each with unique designs and characteristics. The Ultralight, a basic lightweight aircraft. The Glidester, a rocket-propelled glider that accelerates for a fixed duration, then, well, glides. And the Sport 350, a highly manoeuvrable stunt plane. Let's talk for a moment about pacing. This is no doubt an enjoyable and relatively polished title. However, I personally felt that it drags on a bit too long without really making an attempt to spice things up. Sure, the 3 planes are great and very different to fly, but start to finish, the challenges are always the same old fly through here, pop those balloons over there, take a photo of this over here. What about the actual flying? Each plane has essentially the same startup procedure of fuel, electronics, and starter, which, as simple as it may be, I never really stopped enjoying. As for controls, the throttle accelerates, the flaps decelerate, the stick tilts and rolls, the rudder rotates, and the brakes brake. All are mapped to interactable objects, except the rudder, which is controlled by clicking left or right on the touchpad, and the brake, which is activated by pressing down on the touchpad. Now for Locomotion. Be warned, this game certainly can be a stomach churner if you're that way inclined. I initially found myself only lasting about 30 minutes per session, though as with Windlands I have grown more resilient over time. The game offers 2 options for the motion sick prone. The first places a simple frame around the cockpit, and the second tints windows in your peripheral vision, functioning essentially as a vignette. The game is of course a seated experience, and uses a click of the grip buttons to recenter your seated position. This works brilliantly. Failing in this game means either crashing or failing to complete the mission objective. There's really no consequence of failing other than having to restart the challenge you're on. That leads us to difficulty. The learning curve in this game is very steep, but extremely rewarding once mastered. Rather than having difficulty settings, the game offers 3 levels of achievement for each challenge: gold, silver and bronze. The difficulty of attaining each remains pretty consistent throughout the game. As far as music goes, Ultrawings boasts a pretty good selection, which I personally really enjoyed. The sounds are alright, nothing spectacular, but they do the job. graphics are also nothing spectacular. On top of that, the sky doesn't really follow the same art style as the rest of the game, and there are occasionally visible seams in the world. Throughout the game world, you will encounter a range of NPC cars, planes and boats, which is a good attempt to liven up the game world, but I personally still felt it to be somewhat lifeless. I'm now going to talk about a few other issues I've had with the title. For one thing, the starter button has the tendency to be a bit glitchy on the Vive, and judging by the Steam reviews, it's not just me. The haptic feedback on the flight stick also seems to stop working on occasion, making it pretty hard to tell if you're still gripping it. On that note, a toggle for gripping the stick would be nice, rather than having to hold the trigger down the entire flight. Finally, the button to fire mounted guns is also mapped to the rudder, so you fire your guns every time you use it. This doesn't really affect the gameplay, but it certainly is a bit of an annoyance. That brings us to the verdict. Honestly, despite my grumblings, this is still a pretty neat game. If you've got a hankering for a decent flight sim with motion controllers, then this title won't disappoint you, but may leave you wishing for more.